r/nosleep. Posted by u/Polterkites. Check out author's subreddit r/Polterkites. The man in my basement takes one step closer every week. Part 1. 1. He will begin in the furthest corner of your basement. If you see him, do not overreact. He may decide to move on. 2. If the intruder decides to stay, he will take one step closer each week. 3. Do not attempt to speak with him, hurt him, or get third parties involved. 4. Any violation of Rule 3 generally results in several quick steps forward, depending on severity of transgression. 5. Barricading the doors is acceptable. This will slow him down, but the process will be very loud. Difficult to sleep. 6. To others, the intruder will appear as a mannequin, or a rubber dummy, or a coat hanger, etc. Do not let guests near him. 7. The intruder will not move so long as you have guests in the house, guests who actually want to be there. Once I had an old friend sleep on the couch for 3 months and the intruder didn't move a step. 8. You can leave the house, but never sleep anywhere else. Never make plans to move, even browsing for houses online, etc. The importance of this rule cannot be overstated. General notes: none of these rules are set in stone. The intruder seems to evolve and react depending on your actions. Personally, I recommend measuring the distance from him to the furthest corner of the house. Calculate how long it will take him to reach you. Set up your bedroom as far away as possible. Once established, do not move your bed. You must sleep there from now on. Please note that sometimes he will leave his station and wander up into the house. Do your best to ignore him. He will always return to the last place he left off. _ I had to laugh as I read the typo-ridden list of absurd rules left on my doorstep. Conjured up by some neighborhood kid with too much free time. Props for the creativity though. Stepping back inside, I folded up the note and tucked it away. Guess it was preferable to getting toilet papered. I crossed the room, slumped onto the couch, and resumed watching the game. I just moved into the neighborhood. Owning a house of my own had been a life's goal since 18. Now, after 15 years of working, saving, and taking on crippling debt, I finally had a place of my own. A killer deal on a modest 1982 story with a basement and a backyard swimming pool. The main floor was an open design, kitchen, living room, and an entrance hallway that led to the upstairs. Upstairs was a short alcove with 3 doors, master bedroom, guest room, and washroom. This house was the only thing in my lonely life I felt proud. Something caught the corner of my eye. Across the living room, in the front entrance hallway, the basement door was cracked open. A slit of pitch dark. Okay. I turned back to the TV. Probably forgot to close it earlier. Shaking it off, I focused on the game as much as I could. But the cracked open door lurked in my peripheral all the while. It felt like someone was watching me. Fuck. I got up from the couch, marched across the room, pulled the door shut and marched back. Embarrassed, I plopped into the couch and swung my feet up on the coffee table. Maybe that note was getting to me after all. Maybe whoever wrote it wasn't done messing with me yet. Knock. 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 I almost jumped at the pounding on my front door. Muting the TV, I begrudgingly got up and hauled over and yanked open the door. A smiling man greeted me. Barely 5 foot tall, round, and wearing a bright green Hawaiian t-shirt with matching cargo shorts. Vaguely reminding me of the Batman's penguin. "Sir," he said, a forced smile plastered to his face. "Hello," I replied. "I'm so sorry to bother you." He looked down at my shoes, studying. "Someone's been leaving notes on the doorsteps out here and since you're new." He looked up, glanced back over his shoulder, then back to me. "I just wanted to warn you." This guy had more nervous energy than a cold turkey drug addict. "Warn me about what?" I asked. The smile on his face turned grim. "The notes," he said, pausing for effect. He searched for words. "There's a mentally unstable young man in the neighborhood." "Okay. His father." He glanced back over his shoulder again. "His father lived in the house across the street from you. An overgrown, one-story box of a house. It almost looked abandoned. When his father passed, the son." He looked back to me, started writing notes, leaving them on doorsteps around the neighborhood. I set my hand on the pocket where I'd tucked away the note. "The son, if you see him, he's harmless, and the notes, well, of course, they're nonsense." He chuckled. I pulled the note out from my pocket. "Yeah, I was wondering," I said, carefully unfolding the paper. The man's eyes filled with concern. "Rule 1, I read aloud, he will Please. He stammered. I raised an eyebrow. I've read enough of those for a while. He said, rubbing his forehead with the back of his thumb. They're harmless, but also kind of. He looked around, again searching for words. Creepy? I said. His eyes lit up. Yes, creepy, what a great word. Creepy. He marveled. Weirdly impressed. I almost laughed. Anyways, he continued, I just wanted to let you know, don't worry about the notes. They're ridiculous. Of course. Of course, I said. Well, I best be For the third time, he searched for words. Leaving? I said. Yeah. He laughed and wagged a finger at me. I must say you're really good with words. He shook his head like I just pulled off a magic trick. I'd try. I said skeptically, though he seemed sincere. Howie, by the way, he shot his hand out for a handshake. I recoiled. The pandemic was still in full swing. Oh, of course, he said, reading the room. He shook his head again, still not used to it. It's all good. I'm Brandon, by the way. Brandon. He smiled again and turned away. I stood there in the doorway, watching him leave, dumbfounded by the strange, almost funny conversation. As he stepped onto the road, I stepped back into my house and pulled the door shut. Strolling back into the living room, I collapsed onto the couch. Fuck. My team was losing. When the game finished, it was dark out. 3-1 against me. Of course. I turned off the TV and stretched up my arms and pushed off the couch, and froze. The basement door was open again. Wide open. A few long seconds crept by until I finally stepped forward. I know I shut that door. I stopped at the top of the stairs. Below me, everything faded into uninviting darkness. I flicked on the light and an orange glow stuttered to life, beige cream walls and scratchy carpet. The stairs went down about 20 steps, then took a hard turn to the left. I'd only been in the basement twice since moving. Nothing but unopened cardboard boxes down there. I pulled the door shut and went up to my room. Crawling into bed, I flicked off the light, and closed my eyes. Maybe the door was broken. A bump in the night startled me awake. I checked the time, 2:58 a.m. Faint moonlight cast in through the bedroom window. Unopened moving boxes crowded my room like a cardboard metropolis. The night was silent. Still half asleep, I sat up onto the edge of my bed, staring at the closet door. A door that reminded me of my childhood bedroom, a door that reminded me of my only childhood friend, Zach. A sliding door with fake cherry wood vinyl covering and something downstairs moved. 7 quick thumps creaked across hardwood floor. Clicking, almost like dog feet, only heavier. I cursed under my breath, fully awake now. The reasonable part of my mind wondered if a raccoon snuck inside. The less reasonable part of my mind wondered if it was Satan himself. I stood up from the bed and marched over to a stack of boxes in the corner. No way I was going down there without a weapon. Sliding a box off the top of a precarious tower, I turned back and placed it on the bed, rifling through it until my hand grasped a familiar cold metal object. I pulled out a chrome-plated switchblade. One I bought off my weed dealer back in high school. I flicked the knife in and out a couple times. This'll do. Knife in my back pocket, I stepped towards the doorway, wrapped my grip around the smooth brass doorknob, and pushed it open. It was darker out here. No windows. I flicked on the light. Cold, waiting room glow cast over everything. The basement door was still closed. Thank God. I crept silently down the stairs, one step at a time. A faint smell hung in the air. Almost like burned hair and gasoline. Almost. Moonlight cast in through the living room window. Everything down here was quiet and still. Too still. Like the world was on pause. I scanned the living room. Empty. I stepped into the kitchen. Empty. Shaking my head, I pulled open the fridge. Old houses make strange sounds, I reminded myself, pouring a glass of milk. I took a swig. The taste of foul rot filled my mouth. I spewed and spat back into the cup. What the hell? Rinsing out my mouth with tap water, I gurgled and spat until the bitter taste was gone. There's no way that expired already. I checked the date. 6 days till expiry. I set it down and wandered over to the living room window. Across the street, the neighbor's house was dark. I should have asked Howie if the note-leaving son still lived there. Based on what he said, it sounded like this kid needed professional help. Suddenly, a light snapped on. Exterior. Left side of the house. Motion detector. It revealed a cluttered and neglected backyard. even more unkempt than the front. Moths flapped in desperate circles over the unnatural glow. The light went dark. Huh. I turned back to head upstairs, but stopped. My eyes caught the basement door again. Still closed. But something stirred within me this time, morbid curiosity perhaps. I trudged over and pulled open the door. I flicked on the light, and stepped forward. Scratchy carpet clawed at the soles of my socks. I reached the stairwell corner. More darkness. A 15-foot hallway with doors on either side led to an open rec room. I flicked the next light switch. Nothing. Of course. I stood there for a good 10 seconds, staring into the dark, the strange pull of curiosity only getting stronger. Begrudgingly, I pulled out my phone, turned the light on, and moved forward, stepping over boxes and clutter as I went. The strange smell from upstairs was even more pungent down here. Like gasoline and burned hair. Maybe there was a leak? I'd get that checked out tomorrow. Regardless, I pushed forward and stepped into the garage-sized rec room. Cold concrete against my feet. I scanned the phone light from left to right until I froze. Stood in the back right corner was a coat rack post. For a second, it almost looked like a person. I don't own any coat racks, somebody put it there. I felt sick, angry. Somebody broke into my house and put a coat rack in my basement corner. Indignant, I marched forward, yanked it off the ground, and stormed back upstairs. I knew exactly who did it too. The same person who left the note, had to be. That was disturbing enough in its own right, supernatural bullshit or not. Of course, back then, the possibility of the note being a sincere warning never crossed my mind. I didn't even consider the chance that something unknown and terrible was about to enter my life and never leave. At this point, I was convinced that a malicious trickster was trying to break my sanity. I'm not the most stable of individuals, but it'd take more than a coat rack and creepy note to do that. A lot more. I snapped the coat rack in half, tossed it in the garbage, and sat up in the living room till morning. The next day I installed new security and locks. If anything else happened, I'd get the police involved. Either way, I'd been through worse. In hindsight, dismissing the note might be the biggest regret of my entire life.